today's episode, we talked about what is positive discipline and how it can be a game changer in your parenting journey. We talked about actual scenarios parents go through every single day and talked about how to solve them. Our today's guest is Rupal Jasraj Patel. She is one of the first parenting coaches in India. She is also a child psychologist and an author. So watch this episode until the end and get most value out of it and be a better parent, because being a better parent also makes you a better human being. Parenting is a beautiful, wonderful thing which can be magical, and but there are also very difficult parts of it. And for me, the most difficult part was handling meltdowns and tantrums of my toddler. So while I was searching for answers for this, I landed on positive discipline. You're a parenting coach. I would like for you to explain to our viewers what positive discipline is and how we can use it for tantrums and meltdowns.
So positive discipline focuses more on teaching rather than punishing, right? So it's about how you're going to guide children and how you're going to guide them respectfully, calmly, encouraging them rather than trying to control them or instill fear in them. Right? For example, instead of saying, stop this, you'll be punished, or don't do that, I'm going to, take away this from you. Positive discipline will kind of recognize that, the child is upset or the child is feeling a certain thing. And it will work towards finding a solution. So it will address, the why behind the child's behavior, and it will address it with empathy and guidance. So your whole aim when you're using positive discipline will be, what is my child going to learn from this? How is my child going to grow? Right? When you're trying to punish, all you're trying to do is, okay, you've done this misbehavior, now we're going to correct it, and it's going to kind of, that's the punishment and you paid for it. So in a child's mind, it is, okay, I made a mistake, I paid for it, I can go and do it again. Has any learning happened? Has any growth happened? That's a very important part of positive discipline. And when you talk about tantrums and meltdowns and how to handle them, I think the fastest and the quickest way to handle a tantrum is to hug your child. Because when they're going through that tantrum, they have actually lost that control, right? They're going through this emotional upheaval within themselves. Now, at that time, if you're going to scream and shout at them, you're adding to their storm rather than being the calming factor. So it's very important that when they're going through a tantrum, let them pass through that till they calm down. Find them out, and hugging is the fastest way to calm them down. Sometimes a child may not like it, so you can't forcefully hug them, of course, right? Because they may not be okay with being hugged at that. But just even being there and say, when you're calmer, we can talk. Because at that time, parents try to give explanations or try to, make them understand that, oh, this is this. They are not in the position to understand anything you're saying. So when that tantrum is there, let it just pass by. Wait, and of course, if a tantrum is for something that they shouldn't have been crying about, or in the sense that they shouldn't have been, sometimes you throw a tantrum that I want this and I want this only. You don't have to give in to that tantrum just to make them stop crying, but you have to talk about it later, right? Sometimes they cry because they didn't get their way in a certain thing, or somebody else was behaving in a certain way and they wanted to, hit that child, or you stop them. Whatever may be the situation, what is important is you address it later when they're calmer if it is coming from their misbehavior. But more often than not, a tantrum will be because a child is thirsty, hungry, not slept well, tired. All of that leads to a tantrum. So if you understand the why behind that tantrum also, that okay, my child's had a long day and needs a nap and they're tired and that's why they are throwing a tantrum, or it's been way past their lunchtime and I need to make sure I get my child some food, you will know how to kind of gradually take that tantrum away, or even the trigger, especially with very young children. That's why routine is so important for young children, because if there is routine, you will have less of tantrums, especially the tantrums related to being hungry or being sleepy or being tired, or sometimes being unwell also.
Traditionally, we use this fear-based parenting. We just try to ये करो वरना ये आ जाएगा तुम्हारा, डरा देते हैं बच्चों को, बिल्कुल डरा के रख देते हैं. But then what I'm understanding from you is positive discipline is something like love and respect-based parenting. At the end of the day, you love your child and you want that they learn from all of this. So it's love, respect and teaching-based parenting. That's like best of everything what you would want for your child, right? We talked about toddlers and how we can use positive discipline for toddlers. the positive discipline, can we use it also for like other aged children? Like what is the age range in which we can use this?
Absolutely. See, positive discipline is discipline at any age, right? Even when your child is a teenager, the techniques may change a little bit. The way you communicate will change a little bit. As your child grows older, you will involve them more in the discipline process where you will discuss the consequences with them so they know what to expect. So whether it's a toddler or a teen, they know what to expect if certain things are not. Every household and every family will have certain values, certain rules, certain limits, and it's important to set those limits. But it's important to remember that as your child grows older, the flexibility will come in more and the limits will reduce, because that's how you make them independent also. You give them that responsibility for their actions. And certain things, if it is not done or certain rules are not followed, they need to know that there will be certain consequences which will follow. What those consequences again will be, it's the whole discipline workshop we need to do and how to set those consequences. But I think what is important to remember, whether you're setting consequences or you're dealing with a tantrum or you're setting rules and limits for toddlers or for teens, is my child going to grow from this? Punishment cannot become blind obedience, that you better listen to me because I'm your parent, right? Because that is not really going to help. Punishment is creating more harm, is reducing your child's self-esteem. In fact, it's distancing the child from the parent. The parent-child relationship is getting weaker because you're teaching them everything goes, somebody who's older can rule over, have power over somebody who's younger. And that's where you will see rebelliousness coming in. You will see bullying happening, because that's what I've learned as a child, right? That somebody who's older than me can tell me anything and I have to just listen. So I can tell anybody who's younger than me and they better listen to me. So it's very important to understand that when you're using positive discipline at whatever age, then what is my aim of this discipline? Am I just doing it that you better listen to me and trying to have that factor? Because a lot of parents think blind obedience is cooperation. It's not. Cooperation is when it's willingly done, right? When you're willingly wanting to follow what the parent is saying or willingly want to be influenced. And all that can happen when you have a strong bond. So it all gets kind of interlinked.
Yeah. Respond to anger with anger is so easy. But when you try to calm yourself down and you go and hug that child, probably that's what the child is also learning from you. So in parenting, they also always talk about teaching through modeling. That's also something that you're doing through this process. Again, that's a great way to do it. So let's say I'm sold on positive discipline, and I want to implement it from home. So positive discipline is very different from what I've been doing until now. For example, as we talked about, like fear-based parenting or whatever it may be, and I want to get started with it. Do you have any advice that you can give me on how do I start with this?
So you can start with a few simple things. One is, having very clear communication. So when you're kind of setting your rules and your limits, share them with your child, because a lot of times, parents just think kids have to know that of course this cannot be done. But sometimes, they need to be told. Like even with teenagers, the human brain, if you look at it biologically, it doesn't mature till the age of 25. Right? So have those expectations that you have from your child, voice them very clearly. Maybe tell them, you just tell them, okay, go clean your room. Especially with the younger kids, like, okay, why do I need to clean my room? Someone else can do it. But it can be explained, right? That when you keep your room clean and a space is tidy, you'll find your toys more easily. They'll be kept more carefully. They won't break. It creates a pleasant environment. Whatever may be your reasons, And second thing, as you said, the role modeling. It is a very, very key part of parenting. So if I am going to use positive discipline techniques, or if I say I want certain values to be inculcated in my child, or I say I want my child to keep their things in place, I also should be keeping my things in place. I also should be, say if I want my child to be respectful, I also should be respectful. So role modeling is a way to make sure that your discipline techniques are followed, right? So I think even giving choices, that's I think one of the most powerful techniques. With younger kids, you may give choice between say 2 or 3 things. With very young kids, only 2 things, but as they grow older, it can be more. So with a young child, you can say, would you like to wear a red t-shirt or a white t-shirt to school today or to go out today? And they'll say, no, I don't want to wear any of them. So, okay, would you want to wear the black or the green one? No, I don't want that. Okay, do you want the orange or the pink one? No, I don't want that. Okay, do you want to choose or should I choose for you? So it doesn't mean you're letting them get their way, but to a certain limit. And when you give, of course, don't make everything into a choice when you try it tomorrow, because making decisions is not easy. For us, maybe choosing between two t-shirts is not a big deal, but for a toddler, it's a huge deal. And for them, it's like, oh my God, how do I decide? But then you're giving that power back to them. When you're giving that power in their hands, they're less likely to fight you for that power. So those, especially the areas where you're having power struggles or where these tantrums, as you were saying, are happening, and if they're in certain specific areas, those areas you can use to kind of, incorporate this concept of choice. And then as your child grows older, make the choice little wider and make it, maybe if you're talking about food, and say, which cuisine would you want today? Would you want Indian or Italian? Instead of saying, do you want chole or pizza? You're kind of widening the gap, right? Or ask them to help you plan the menu for the week. Or even if they are discussing where they have to go out, the deadlines, when sometimes the teenagers especially, parents face this thing of what time should you get back home. Even talking about saying that, okay, let's discuss it, and kind of in that discussion reach a consensus, which means at that point of time, the choice will also come to the point of where you're allowing them to have a voice. You may not let them get their way, but let them have their say. Let them share what is it they feel. Like, there was this, suppose there is a parent who says, no, my child has to be home at 11 p.m., for example. And, but somebody is dropping that child home, which means that person doesn't want to leave till, say, 12 p.m., but then to drop, you have to get there by 11, So maybe when the child discusses that with the parent and says that, this is the case, I have to make someone leave just to drop me. So can we extend it? And the parent may say, no, not 1 hour, but maybe half an hour. They can kind of reach a, middle ground somewhere. So it could be anything. It could be even staying back in school and for a certain activity, and I want to go out with my friends, but everyone's going. That can't be a reason. When you discuss it calmly, you will reach a solution. So that's why I said the whole idea of discipline should be growth, should be development, should be teaching, and should be that we have to find a solution and resolve it where both are happy, rather than saying you better listen to what I told.
Yeah, when you're talking about growth for our kids, every time we do a parenting episode, I have this feeling that trying to be a better parent is also making me a better human being, more emotionally and mentally stable human being who can find reason, who can, if I can find a reason with a toddler who is not yet fully developed, I can truly find a reason in a workplace setting, for example, or when I'm having some argument at my home with my husband. So I feel every time we do a parenting episode, I feel that growth. So I love that.
Absolutely, because I think the whole idea is to grow with your kids, right? And I think your kids teach you so much, which you don't even realize with certain things. That's why I said these conversations with children, sometimes when they are so clear, because they don't have any filters. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, like, you really, truly, I think, learn a lot from children. And you learn constantly, even their kindness and their compassion, especially with the younger babies, the sensitivity, all of that you learn so much from children. So that's why in the parenting episode, you probably feel that, because then it's getting you back to, okay, how do I connect with that child in front of me? So
definitely, I think those are all my questions about positive discipline. But I think now we can move on to our next segment, which is called Rapid with Charm. I talked to a bunch of my friends, a bunch of our followers on Instagram and stuff, and we have a list of questions. These are like scenarios which have actually happened. These are the questions from parents, and I would like for you to maybe give some like small solution to them so that they find some growth in their parenting as well. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Should we start?
Sure.
Okay. So some of the first scenarios are based for a toddler. So one of my friends says that my 1.5-year-old repeatedly interrupts me when I'm speaking on phone with someone. What do I do?
Okay, I think that is one of the most common things, right? That when you're on the phone and the child will keep coming and saying, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. So I think the fastest and quickest in your rapid vichar would be just to tell the child that, I know you need me, but I'm on the phone, and once I finish the call, I will come and find you, and to ensure that you go and find the child. So it's very important to not put the phone down and give attention, but let them know that when I'm on the phone, then I will find you. That when then is very important. And then the child also unlearns the value of patience through that, right? So
It may be hard at first, but I think if we keep on doing this and this and this, someday the toddler will understand and probably, okay, when mama is speaking on phone, I have to wait.
honestly, I think it's hard for the parents and the toddler to understand, because the parents' first reaction is, no, stop disturbing me. You can't see how many times do I tell you I'm on the phone. Or it'll be the other extreme where they say, okay, listen, my child is calling me, I need to hang up. I think it's the parent who needs to find that middle ground where you can be calm and be firm and say, I know you need me, but I'm on the phone. I'll get done in 5 minutes and I will be there with you. And maybe set a timer on the phone and say, when this rings, I will be there. If you're able to do that, like if that conversation is going to end that quickly.
Okay, wonderful advice. We move on to the next one. My 2-year-old gets frustrated very easily. Every time he's playing with some toys and not able to find solutions to certain problems, he gets frustrated and starts throwing toys or starts crying. What do I do?
I think just acknowledging the fact that it's hard, that frustration is coming because something they're finding tough. And, it seems to me that you're frustrated. Would you like me to try it out together? Would you like me to help you? And we can try and do it together. Something like that, where you're showing them that it's okay that you're feeling this and I am there to support.
Wonderful. Okay, so the next question is, my toddler has constant meltdowns in public places. I always feel very guilty and feel very shamed by everyone around me. What do I do?
Yeah, I think the problem is that you're feeling guilty and ashamed because people are watching, right? I think that is like what you said, how parents have to grow. That's one growth they need to do. In terms of the toddler, again, like I said, tantrum, the first thing is if you hug the child, it's the easiest way to calm them down. If they don't let you, just to acknowledge the fact that I can see that you're upset, let's sit down together and let's, we'll talk, or we'll go when you're calmer and when you're able to be calm. So not worry about the others. And I said, if you're able to figure out, like we discussed earlier, the why behind the tantrum, the child is hungry, giving them something to eat, if they're tired, kind of quickly winding up and taking them home, which is why, especially with, toddlers and younger kids, to make plans in such a way that's around their routine. Because obviously at that age, kids, the routine goes off. And when in hunger, forget kids. You've seen adults having tantrums when they're hungry, right? So, what does a child do?
Yeah, true. Okay, let's move on to the next one. My 18-month-old refuses to eat something that I made for him and always demands for something else.
Okay, I think all ages have this challenge. But anyway, I think with the younger ones, it's pretty easy. The best way is to get creative with food. So if you kind of, make a shape out of it, like maybe a tomato eyes or a carrot nose, or, whichever, using different vegetables like a face. So it's fun for them. Or maybe a roti sabzi ka mountains and big and small mountains. When you get creative, and then even sneaking in nutrients into food. You can actually, like a stuffed paratha can have how many vegetables that they won't even realize. Pav bhaji will have so many vegetables. A pasta sauce can have so many vegetables which you don't realize, right? So you can really sneak in the vegetables. But at a younger age, you want to give them the nutrition. And with my daughter, my rule was that you have to try it. If you don't like it, it's fine, but you have to taste it, because without tasting, how do you know that you like it or you don't? So, and you can also say, I understand that you don't like the food, but let's try it today and, every day. And, or maybe even if it's some families have like 2-3 kids in the house, maybe, cousins are there, whoever. Maybe everyone can choose one day, what is it that you want today? And then everybody else eats. So that way you learn to eat other things also. But 18 months, of course, is too young for that. So with 18 months, I think anyways, you have to be a little flexible and give them what they want, and not even able to voice their opinions on what they like or don't like.
All right. Okay. So next one is, every time I try to put my toddler into car seat, he just throws a tantrum and wouldn't sit.
So I think, again, acknowledging the fact that it's not fun or they don't like to be buckled up, but saying that this is for safety and this has to be done. This is not negotiable. But maybe we can, play the music that you like in the car, or maybe we can sing songs together, or maybe getting them some, car seat toys, maybe those small books, or, any toys which they would enjoy just playing with on their own, depending on the age group. right? But I think even the car books, you get these small books which are tiny sized, which they can use to, or even just, I think a lot of kids just like singing songs or playing I Spy while you're driving, and they love to look out and find things. So there are lots of things you can do. But the key to, I think, most of these things is acknowledging what the child is feeling. They're half the time denying what they're feeling, and it's okay to feel that and say it's fine that you're feeling this, but has to be done. There is no choice in it. And again, most times you are screaming and shouting and telling them, but how to say the same thing calmly. So I think that can make all the difference.
I think we're done with the toddler scenarios. Up next, we have some scenarios for like school-goer kids. So the first one is, my child is being bullied or is being excluded from activities in school, and what do I do?
So I think one is to acknowledge what is happening, and I'm really sorry that this is happening to you, and you're probably feeling miserable about it, and let's try and find a way to work on this together. So again, like I said earlier, a lot of times parents are denying the feeling. A lot of times we don't want our child to feel a particular thing because you don't want your child hurting. So a lot of time when a child is being bullied,
Yeah, this is a difficult thing to go through.
Yeah, and I think, even with smaller scenarios, I've seen parents getting more affected than kids, right? And that's a very natural thing. But when the child is feeling a certain thing, we have to accept and let them go through that feeling because they'll come out of it stronger. But we try and say, no, just forget it. Those people are mean. Let them be. Don't talk to them. Don't be friends with them. Or they make it the child's fault. You must have done something and that's why that's happening. But not acknowledge a child is feeling pain. So both those extremes don't work, right? Blaming someone else or blaming the child. When the child is being bullied, then I'm sorry this is happening. Let's find a way. Let's see how to work on this together. Let's work out a plan. What is happening? Let's talk about it.
Yes.
It's important to get that. That's why that parent-child bond becomes important, because you get your child to trust you, to be able to come and share anything and everything with you. I also think with bullying, it's important to teach your child how they should not do that. So it's a very long, obviously, conversation to be had, and it's a very ongoing conversation to be had. So, but, to acknowledge and to not get swept away by that emotion yourself. Because once you do, you want to go and attack, and, I think the parents and the mother will become that, protecting her cub, become that lioness to go and attack everybody.
But I think the advice that you gave is really helpful. And also the opposite, that just because you got bullied at some point, don't become the one who bullies somebody else later. That's also something like diamond advice, I would say. Okay, so the next one is, my child shows lack of interest in following the house rules and routines and seems very indifferent to the consequences.
So that's why the decision, like I was saying, it has to be based on discussion. Rules cannot just be set randomly, right? When you actually discuss with your child, you're getting that consensus. You're explaining to them the why behind the rules also. And once they understand and once they agree, also get an agreement on the consequences. So when they agree to it, they're more likely to follow through with it. So it's very important to have that discussion before you create those rules and limits. And that's why the open communication becomes important.
Okay, my child lies about finishing his homework. What do I do in this situation?
Okay. So, I would, usually any school things of homework and exam, I would think it's best to let the teachers handle it. Because if the teachers handle it, see, no child wants to be pulled up in class in front of their friends. So when they are more likely to become responsible towards it. I think half the times parents are taking on the onus of the schoolwork. And when that is happening, how are you teaching your child responsibility? Because it's their work. I know so many parents who are packing their child's school bags. Now, if you're going to pack a school bag, yesterday in the class, maybe the teacher said, tomorrow instead of this book, get this book. In the English, we won't do literature, but we'll do grammar. You were not there to know that conversation happened, right? So you're packing the bag according to the timetable, which is not helping your child anyways. And also it's say, okay, my mother's doing it or my father's doing it, why should I do? I mean, subconsciously. So let the child do their own work together and let them face the consequences if they don't do it. That's how they learn.
Yeah, that's again something probably a parent wouldn't think that way, but I think to get help from someone like you, it's very helpful to see that kind of perspective, right?
Right.
Okay, my child talks back and uses disrespectful language at home when there is a conflict happening.
One, I think we have to ask ourselves, where did they learn that from? And how are we talking in the house? If to talk badly, it's very rare that in the house everybody is talking politely and the child is talking badly back, because the values are coming from there. Of course, having said that, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. There are times you will learn from your peers also, or you get influenced by other people. So I think at that moment that this is not how we speak in the house. When you can talk calmly and politely, we'll continue the conversation at that. And not to engage in that conversation, and then to just walk away, and then when the child is in a calmer and a better mood, to have that conversation that this is not the kind of language we use and this is not how we talk. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think then again, reinforcing it again and again until the behavior happens in all cases.
And reinforcing it in a calm manner. A lot of times the reinforcement happens, but it happens in a very frustrated manner. If you're going to be frustrated and demand a change or demand that the child does that, again, you're falling into the punishment kind of mode, right? I mean, that side you're going on, because you're not able to deal with it. The child is not listening to you, you're getting frustrated. So instead of building that bond, it's weakening the bond. And when the bond gets weakened, it's a vicious cycle, right? Because when the bond is weaker, the child is still not going to listen to you even more. And then you're going to resort to punishment, and you're going to people go and spank their kids, and which is not helping at all anybody, So the reinforcement also, when you do, you have to know that it's calm, because you have to understand, which is why I said the first thing, that you have to understand the purpose of positive discipline is to teach and help your child to grow and develop. That's the only reason discipline is there. It's not that the child has to blindly listen to you. We are raising kids who want to think for themselves, and then we say, no, you don't think for yourself when I say something. That time you have to listen to me. Doesn't work like that, right?
That doesn't work. We have to be very mindful of what we are telling them and how we are behaving.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Rupal ma'am, those were all my questions. And I think what I learned from here today is how I can use this love, respect, and teaching-based parenting method rather than just responding with anger or like fear-based punishments or stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I want a better relationship with my child. I want to have that connection. And I think first I try to give the validation to the kid, and when that happens, I maintain that boundary, that limit. As you said, we have to be kind but firm. That's something I'm going to take away from today. And thank you so much for your time. It was lovely talking to you, going through all the questions.
My pleasure. Just keep love at the center of it, and I think you will do just right. More than teaching, because a lot of time when you keep teaching in the center of it, that can become very theoretical and very stressful. Oh my God, is my child learning? Oh my God, is this happening? But when you keep love and that compassion and that kindness at the center of it, everything falls. And of course, being calm through it all. So as you said, we grow together, right? So
And beautifully said. Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you.
And give it your time to us. It was so much fun talking to you. Learned a lot today.
Thank you, and all the best to you.
Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe to our channel, HR Vibes.